Welcome to the Speechy Side Up podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. You can follow along on Instagram at Speechy Side Up. This episode is a little different from my other episodes as it's available for ASHA CEUs through Tassel. Click on the link in the show notes or go to tasseltogether.com to register or stay on until the very end because I'll explain exactly how to earn ASHA CEUs. So we have Jenny back today, and she's going to be talking about how we can reframe ABA using a neurodiversity affirming approach for parents and practitioners. So by the end of this Podcourse, we hope that you'll be able to define neurodiversity affirming ABA and explain two key differences between it and traditional ABA approaches. Identify three core principles of neurodiversity affirming ABA in practice and how they can support a child's individual needs. Describe two ways that being both a BCBA and a special needs parent can influence perspectives on ABA and its applications. And that's what Jenny's personal experience is and what she's going to share today. And then list three actionable strategies parents can use at home to implement ABA while prioritizing connection and respect. Here's our agenda for this Podcourse. So we're going to start off with some introductions and backgrounds. Then we will dive into what it's like being a BCBA and a parent in regards to ABA. And then we'll talk about neurodiversity affirming ABA in action, how to advocate for child-centered ABA, and how to provide connection-focused ABA at home. And then we'll wrap up with resources and references. Jenny, thank you so much for coming back. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, thank you for having me, Benita. So my name is Jenny Lai. I am a board-certified behavior analyst. I have about going on 7 years experience in the field. I really do advocate for neurodiversity affirming practices, and I really emphasize on collaboration with families, but also their teams, like their IEP teams and the other therapies that they're involved in. I have two children. They are both on the spectrum, very different on the spectrum. So I'm learning a lot from them too. I have a podcast. I'm a co-host. It's called Not a Tiger Mom Podcast. I've been doing this with my friend Bettina. You might know who she is. She's an autistic SLP. And the reason why we created this podcast is to really represent the AAPI, the Asian American Pacific Islander community, as neurodivergent parents raising neurodivergent kids, because we feel like there's a lack of representation in that area. I currently work for a neurodiversity affirming company once a week. I also am in the middle of running my own private practice. And part of my private practice it's more of a parent consult model, and really trying to help families navigate the diagnosis or help them with any behaviors that they're having a very difficult time really managing or having these really neuroaffirming strategies. So I'm here to support them and also applying ABA principles in neurodiversity affirming ways.
I love
Thanks.
that. And how old are your two kids?
I have 5 and I have a 3. Well, he's going to be 3 in 2 days.
Oh, happy early birthday. I didn't realize your co-host was an SLP, an autistic SLP. So I wrote down her name. I'm gonna have to reach out to her too. That's really cool.
Yes. Yeah, we connected on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's just social media, such a great place to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we have not met before or you've not heard the podcast, my name is Vanita Litvack. I go by she, her. I have a passion for AAC and literacy, and I've had the opportunity to present at various conferences and co-authored the Lou Knows What to Do book series, and recently became an NLA trained clinician through Meaningful Speech. And when I am not doing speechy things and podcasting, I'm taking tennis lessons, but actually I'm on a team now. And so that's been really fun. Yeah. And then making lattes at home and really trying not to buy them out at my favorite coffee shop and creating Cricut designs for friends and family. What do you enjoy doing for fun, Jenny?
Oh, really when I have the time, and this is something I'm currently working on. I'm not sure if this is just like a mom of two thing, but I'm really trying to just get back to doing the things I used to do before kids. So it's just going out with friends, visiting places, San Diego, which is 2 hours away, creating more memories with my friends since we're all getting older now and each have different family, their own families. So I think just trying to make more intentional decisions on just continuing on my relationships with my friends and also creating new memories with my own family as well.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
such a good goal to have.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about how being both a BCBA and a special needs parent has shaped your view of ABA.
Okay, this is such a
It's like a
big
therapy
topic
session.
for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, and I feel like I can't talk about this without just rewinding way back. So, my life before my son received an autism diagnosis is that I was trained in traditional ABA. That was just what was taught to me. And, so the goal was always to decrease challenging behaviors that we didn't want to see, such as noncompliance or something more extreme like self-injurious behaviors. And we're also teaching ways how to teaching replacement behaviors. But also at the same time, we're trying to increase behaviors we want to see, such as skill acquisitions, requesting or identifying, labeling, self-care skills. But the way that's taught is usually by like external rewards, pairing it with intrinsic reward. But at that time, it's very heavily, well, if the child is motivated for this iPad, then we can teach this child to do anything, basically. That was just the approach that I was taught. Now they did brush in school, they did brush on the emotional side, but it's very just a speck, just a little dab. They didn't go too much into compassion or validations or anything like that. So yeah, no training in connection or neurodiversity affirming, even though the ABA goal was to make the lives of clients successful. But as the industry grew, I now thinking back, it started to lack the client center aspect of what it's supposed to be. And yes, I already mentioned this earlier. So yeah, to increase behavior through skill acquisition, through positive reinforcement using external rewards. There are some punishment using too, but it's not what you think. It's not timeout or anything like that. That's kind of a last resort. But punishment, as in just removing. Let's say your teenager did really poorly on a test. It's okay. Well, you did poorly on this test, so you can't drive your car. That's the form of punishment we're talking about, with the hopes of decreasing that behavior and increasing the test scores. And it's also when we think about skill acquisition, it's also the classic tabletop work
Mhm.
using external rewards. Also, first we do some matching, and then you can have a 5-minute break. And it's heavily relied on data, so we know, heavily focused, and it's also very implemented in a very systematic way. I don't know if you heard of errorless learning. Yeah.
I used to be, just to give you a background, I don't think we've discussed this, but I used to be, it was called an ABA line assistant at the time. Now it's an RBT, but before going
Oh,
to school for speech therapy, I did that under a BCBA.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you still did direct one-on-one. Is that
Yes.
what you did?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Bringing back memories, huh?
Yeah, really. It was a long time ago,
Oh,
probably 15 years ago. Yeah.
oh, oh. And was it because of just being in the field? You're like, I don't think I want to do this, or
We
I
can
think
get
I'm going to
into
change.
that.
Okay,
We
okay,
can get
okay,
into
okay,
that. I want to hear more about you, but we could definitely
okay,
talk
okay.
about that.
So yes, the errorless prompting for people listening, it means when we're teaching a new skill, we don't want them to make any mistakes. So we try to prevent that from happening. And as you know, the more prompts we use, the less reinforcement, the smaller the reward. And then if there's not a lot of prompting, then oh yes, the bigger rewards. Oh my God, you did it. And it's so like, yay, good job, very exaggerated. So that was my understanding and the way I practiced before my son was diagnosed. So life after my son received an autism diagnosis. So he received a diagnosis at age 2.5. I was just newly certified, about 3 months. I was also 8 months pregnant at the time.
Wow,
Yeah, it was a lot of emotions
I'm
that
sure.
that day. So my initial reaction was I was worried, anxious, like he needs to catch up to his peers. I was very, very stressed. I started blaming myself. My genes started thinking about, well, what did I take during pregnancy that could have caused this? It's a lot of stress on moms, especially in Asian culture. It's, well, you're the one carrying the baby, so you're responsible for this. So it's just
Mhm.
a lot of that. Even though my parents were, I feel like they were very, they have their own beliefs as well. So they would start saying these little remarks, well, it's because you do this, it's because you do that. So that adds on to, okay, well,
Mhm.
he really needs to catch up. And then I started to, it wasn't until I would say maybe 7 months into his diagnosis that I started to question ABA of being a gold standard and also just having that um, doubt about the field.
What
Um,
kind of questions did you have? Do you mind sharing them?
yeah. Okay. So the reason why I had these questions is because me being in the field, of course, I would try to do these things at home with him. I have these experience with my clients who I see just 2 hours a day, but I have my child that is with me 24/7. And
Mm-hmm.
then is he just not getting it? Or are these reinforcement just not working? Or is he
Mm-hmm.
just not motivated to do this? So it just caused a lot of imposter syndrome, I guess you would say, in
Mm-hmm.
me as a professional and as a mom. But then something happened where I do a lot of thinking.
Me
Where
too.
yeah, something happened where I'm just like, well, is it the field or is it me or what's happening? And then I kind of went into this loop where it's like, well, I've came across people saying that, oh, it's abuse. ABA is
Mhm.
abuse. And so I just started looking it up. And before that, I've never looked it up.
You
Never.
never
Because I
like it
was,
was never like something that I know, and I feel like
yeah.
within the last 5 years, it's something that's come across my table. I think becoming a parent really does that. I think becoming a parent really makes you start to question, in particular, like the ABA strategies that we would use in speech therapy. And I'm not, and I, this is why I have you on because I think I've seen a lot of benefits of ABA therapy for some of my clients when it's done well. But then, and I've seen strategies that were rooted in ABA, that visual schedules, and I know some people will knock visual schedules, but I've done newsletters about this and I've talked on Instagram about this. It's not the tool, it's how you use the tool. And so we can dive into that a little bit. I was always opposed to using it. And lately, we implemented this digital calendar. Just going back to the visual schedule example, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Hearth display.
No,
Okay,
I've
it's
never
a
heard of that.
digital calendar. There's a couple different ones, but we implement it in our household. And so it's not just for my daughter. All of us have one. Like I have one, my husband has one, and she has one. And we all have like three things that we have to do in the morning and at night. And let me tell you, it has changed our world. And she feels so proud of herself for checking things off of it. And it just really helps
Mhm.
us, what if we wake up late one day? It just helps us feel good about getting the things that we really absolutely have to get done and not like rushing out the door. So I think
Mhm.
there are benefits to these tools that were rooted in ABA, but it's how you use those tools.
Yes. And then, the whole checking off thing, it's just really, and especially if you feel proud about it and your daughter
Yeah.
feels really proud. And when you mention it to me, I think I would really benefit from that. But it's also part of like, in my experience, it's part of my executive functioning. If I have an issue just writing things down
Mhm.
or finding my notebook like where it is, or even if I have the checklist on my phone, it doesn't work for me. But if I have a calendar written, a whiteboard, that works. And that's a visual schedule.
Yeah,
So it's like
that's such a
really
good
hard.
point. Some of the more effective ABA tools that we will embed in speech therapy really help with executive functioning differences. And my family has executive functioning differences. So that example in particular has been very, very helpful. And same for you. And like, even a timer for our family helps. Okay, so we could spend 20 minutes in the bathtub, but then it makes us late on everything else. Why don't we set a timer so that we all stay on track for the bathtub? And, I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's that balance of making things joyful. But I think also for executive functioning differences, trying to keep things like, I don't want to say organized. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. Do you know where I'm
Um,
going with this?
I mean, in a way, it is kind of like, but then these are things that needs to be done. That's important
Right.
for your
To
life.
function in your life.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And then
it's
it just
just
throws
something.
everything else off. It can create more of a battle and more
Yes.
resistance
Yeah.
without the expectation of what's supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
like the routine. I guess routine was
Mm-hmm.
the word I was going for. Keeping with routines. Routines are not a bad thing,
Nope. I
at
actually
all.
talk about that on the last slide too.
Oh, cool. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see that.
But yeah, so just learning about the nuances in ABA, like just knowing that traditional ABA can it's a clear cut, cookie cutter almost
Hmm.
intervention, very systematic. But then once you integrate flexibility, cultural competence or humility, this is another thing with cultural competence. I feel like you don't have to just know everything, be so knowledgeable about every family's home you step into. But I think just being aware that their life, their values is different than mine. Everybody, you should always think that what I find is valuable or important to me might not be important for this family. And also an individualized approach. And also, I started listening to autistic voices and their stories. It's just a really, really good place to start because prior to that, my ABA company that I worked in or my mentors that I had not once mentioned anything about autistic or the autism community. And it really makes me question why? Why is this? Why? And I just feel, I don't know, once I was in a place that I start questioning things, just more things just started a light bulb effect for me. So yes, listening to Autistic Voice, that was a good place to start, especially on Facebook. And this Facebook group is very anti-ABA, very, but then I had to learn to just read. And then it really gave me a chance to really think. And also understanding their culture, their own culture as an autistic person. And even within that culture is subculture. So I don't know, I can really go deeper in that, especially with the disability culture, where it's like, okay, you have the autistic people, that's a culture. Okay, now you got the lower support needs with the higher support needs, different cultures. And and you start to see not everybody is going to agree with everything within these cultures. And so I just feel like once I learned and dove deep into that, it made me feel much more um, confident about my approach, how I want to show up as a mom and as a professional, and how I wanted to raise my kids as well. And also, life is not a data point. You know, when you rely too much on data, you kind of forget the meaning behind your work and also the client in front of you. Because
I
like
love
life,
that.
yeah, life is not rigid at all. You
Right.
have to be very flexible. And and it's so funny that how we're trying to teach our kids to be flexible, but then
Yeah.
us ourselves, we have to learn to do that too. And and with data, as you know, it only shows up, you're only marking observable behaviors, what you see.
Hmm.
But it doesn't take into considerations on what's going on internally inside, the experience that they might feel, emotions, mental health, and culture identity. So, but yeah, that's a big one for this question. It just really makes me think, okay, what is my role as a BCBA? What is my role as a parent? And how do I really take these two separate roles and merge it together and learning just everything that I learned and just, I don't know, just kind of just be the best parents and be a great professional out there. So,
Yeah. Well, and I think, I'm so glad that you've had this realization. Have you felt any
mhm.
pushback from other BCBAs on your perspectives?
So initially when I learned about it, and this is how I get always when I learn about new information, I just want to tell everybody.
I know, me too. Yeah.
And oh, that's so funny. And the way I approached it to the ABA agency I work for, I was like, we need to have a meeting. I said this to the owner, the the clinical director, and this was right after when I came back from maternity leave, I think.
Oh, I love
Oh
it.
yeah, so I was filled with emotions and I was like, we need to set up a meeting. There was no priming. I didn't tell them. It was just, this is what it is, yada, 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 this. But that's when I got kind of a pushback because they're, well, is there research on this? That was one of the
That's the
questions.
main question you get, right? Yeah.
I'm like, the research is that they're people. These are people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, I just felt it was a terrible feeling, when you
It's the
think
research. I love that you're like, they're people. It's what they're saying about themselves and their own experiences. What else do you need to know? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that. I see it in my practice. I've worked with really great BCBAs, and then I've also worked on the other side too. And it's not always BCBAs, sometimes RBTs. I'll just give you my background really quick. I was very, very good at traditional ABA therapy, and I'm not proud of that. The reason I was very good is because I had a very authoritarian upbringing.
Mm,
So when it came to doing ABA therapy, it just like came very naturally for me. And I was in my undergrad, my major was psychology, and I wanted to go to graduate school, but I had been introduced to speech language pathology, but my school in particular did not have an undergrad program for it. They had a grad program, but not an undergrad program. So I took a class in linguistics and I loved it. And then at the ABA company that I worked for, they had a speech language pathologist who was looking for a mentee. And so I applied and I got it. So I got to work under the speech language pathologist and I was like, I love this. This is what I want to do. But I was like, I don't want to go back to school for speech language pathology. There were a handful of programs that allowed you to apply as an out of field, and you would just
mhm.
take the prerequisite courses to
Oh
catch
yeah.
up. And so I applied to ABA programs and I applied to speech language pathology programs. I got into all the ABA programs and I got into one or two speech language pathology
It's so
programs.
competitive.
It's so
And the fact
competitive.
that you got
And
two,
well,
that's
it was
amazing.
also because I was out of field. But I cried because I guess at the time I kind of knew that ABA it didn't feel right to me the way that I was doing it at the time. Like you said, it felt very rigid. It felt a little bit manipulative, especially asking kids to speak for something that they really wanted, not knowing what was going on underneath. And getting a little introduction to speech language pathology, I started realizing, oh, some of these children truly cannot speak on command for something that they really want. So just going to school to learn about apraxia, childhood apraxia of speech and cerebral palsy and other things that could be going on just really opened my eyes to, okay, there's more than one way of doing this. We should be accepting
Mhm,
like, multiple modes of communication. We should be following the child's lead. And speech language pathology has its faults too. I'm not saying speech language pathology is any better. They're like we can certainly do better at like listening to autistic voices. So I think both fields in general can find a happy medium. And I think that
mhm,
not every child who's autistic needs ABA therapy, but I think the ones that do, it can be very beneficial when it's holistic with OT and speech therapy too.
mhm. Yeah. Yes, exactly. You know what's funny? Your background as an like undergrad, you were working in an ABA field, but then I was a slipper back then
Oh,
too. So it's
wow.
like we switched
So
roles.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then my story is because I could not get into zero SLP schools because I was terrible at the GRE. Terrible. And I did not want to spend money anymore. And then I was also, oh man, I'm getting kind of old. What do I do? But I want to be kind of in the field. And so, yeah. So like if I felt like I feel like the grad school in ABA was, you know how you got into all of them? Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, no brainer. I just got in like that. Online
Oh,
program, yay.
no, honestly, I think it's the path that you're meant to be on. Think about the impact that you're making now as a BCBA within your
Yeah.
field. Hopefully, you'll be able to impart change on other BCBAs. So maybe that was the
Mhm.
bigger picture that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I'm just meant to be on
Yeah,
this road.
I love that.
But okay,
So, what
next.
does neurodiversity affirming ABA look like in action?
Okay. For me, I feel like you cannot be neurodiversity affirming if you are unaware of your own behaviors because there needs to be a lot of reflection on your end. So you need to focus on your own behaviors as a therapist, as an educator, and as a parent. So at surface level, we a neurodiversity affirming ABA would look honoring all forms of communication, and if they even recommend an AAC, it's, oh God, you must be on the real deal. You must be neurodiversity affirming because, traditionally ABA, it's like, oh, let's start with PECs. Ugh. Yeah, so yeah, let's start with PECs. But with neurodiversity affirming, it's okay, let's honor word approximations, AAC, some signs, some body gestures. And it's all about collaboration with an SOP, especially, and then a collaboration with OT for the sensory needs. Because when I was in my previous company before, when we're doing the traditional approach, it's like, what is a sensory diet? I just remember seeing that goal and I was, what does that mean? And then I remember being told, oh, just try some bins, just try the trampoline. And then I'm like, we did all that, but then it's like, this doesn't feel right to me. So just our knowledge about sensory integration or anything like that, we have very minimal to no training on that. And it's good to practice. Okay, I would like to speak to your OT. Let's collaborate. Let's see what they suggest I should do to try to implement the strategies with the child, with the client there. And what can I do to educate the families while I'm not there, since we are in the homes a lot. Um, Also, describing what you're doing as a therapist, and if hand over hand is needed, for example, maybe to help with scooping some food up or scooping, ask permission. Hey, I'm going to touch you. Is that okay? I'm going to help you do this. And even with a non-speaking child, if they just flinch or, remove, it's okay. No, thank you. No touching. Just something as simple as describing what you're doing before going for it. And at the same time, just respecting their autonomy, their bodily autonomy. Underneath the surface, which is you as a therapist. So a lot of proactive inner work you need to do. So proactive strategies is kind of antecedent strategies for ourselves. We're trying to set this up. So before the behavior is happening, what are you doing to prevent this behavior from happening? So your goal is to follow their lead. Make sure before you go into session, I'm going to follow your lead. I'm going to gauge it out. I'm going to do a lot of modeling. And also, I'm going to implement these goals. But then, what are the plans? What if the client doesn't want to implement these goals? And what are your plans on that? So, this trying to be being very flexible in that. A lot of constant self reflection that you need to do. How do you, as a therapist, or how does I'm talking about this, I'm talking to a group of therapists, but okay, anyways. So, you as a therapist, how do you navigate stressful moments? I think this is a big one. What, how do you navigate when your child or when your client is having a meltdown or a tantrum, or is not following the rules? How do you navigate that? How are you feeling? Is your personal bias interfering with your work? Oh, why is it interfering with your work? It's just so many
That's such
things.
a good point. Yeah, considering your own regulation, right? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, which is not considered in ABA at all, right? It's
Mm,
always the client that you're working with
yeah,
and their ABC data, but not looking at how their behavior is triggering your own dysregulation. Such a
yeah.
good point.
It's learning, yeah, the ABC of your clients, but it's like, what about your ABC? Why?
Have you talked
So
about that a lot? I feel that would be really breaking for the field of ABA therapists.
I've sent out I posted a few things about this, but I talk about this with my families all the time.
Good. Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's so important. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it's talked about in other fields, but I think that that could be a really good middle ground for BCBA
Yeah.
um, therapists because then it's kind of like taking it off of
Yeah.
the client, the responsibility off of the
Yes.
client, and showing that
Yes.
every conversation is a two-way interaction,
Yeah.
right?
And that's why I feel like when this question, what to look for in neurodiversity ABA, and it's a lot of it is just about, well, how's that therapist? Do they have great coping skills? What do they do when they're stressed? Because there's going to be a lot of, hopefully not a lot, but when those moments arise, how do you manage that? So when we think about ABA, yeah, we only think about our clients, but then it's like I do ABA on myself all the time. It's a lot of inner work. So, and I think you're right, that is not talked about enough. And I just believe like not it's a skill that it's kind of difficult to develop. So if you're listening, really check in with yourself about this. Oh, and also, are you doing professional growth and are you communication of that? And are you putting that into actions? So, modeling through reactive strategies. So, reactive strategies are consequence strategies in ABA terms. So, this is what you do when the behavior is already happening. How do you respond to behaviors that are challenging? So, for neurodiversity affirming ABA, there's going to be a lot of validation, right? Like, oh, that must be really hard for you to do. I understand you're so upset. I would be upset too. I understand that you're upset. And actually coach them through these. Instead of the traditional one, maybe you might see planned ignoring, or maybe you'll see extinction. Oh, we don't want to reinforce that behavior. Just look away or give minimal eye contact or use monotonish tone. So you're not accidentally reinforcing that behavior. But I think it's a good place to start. Like, oh, this child is having a difficult time. They probably don't needs our help to coach through this. So it's also using in ABA terms, we say the word functional communication training. Just model, no, I don't want to do this right now. Get this away from me right now. And we also trying to teach them learn to take breaks. Hey, you seem you're having a very hard time now. Let's just go get back to this. Let's go take a break. Let's go outside. And it's also trying to teach them how to manage their own behaviors. It's a really good place to start because I don't know why we kind of just traditionally kind of just think, well, if we just don't reinforce it by ignoring, then it'll just stop. But it's like, no, it's like you're teaching them to suppress it. It's kind of like what we were taught as adults, right? That's why some people need to go to therapy, you know? So it's like, we don't want to do this with our kids. So I think just a lot of validation and even that takes a lot of skill too to
Mhm.
learn.
Yeah,
Um,
great points.
yeah. So change to modeling acceptance and model empathy and flexibility. So just really trying to move away from that strict behavior correction and to model acceptance behavior also teaches us as therapists how to be very flexible and sharing the feelings of with each other. Hey, I understand. I've been there too. It's like I don't know. I'm just having these moments. It's like why weren't we taught this? And learning to be flexible and adapting and just learning new ways to cope. And it also, when we're modeling that in front of our clients and our parents, it really, to me, I feel like it teaches others to adopt the same mindset if it clicks for them. And it kind of creates a ripple effect of compassion and resilience. So, yeah, so that's how it should look. I think it should look.
Yeah, no, I love that. This is
Mhm.
something that I'm kind of struggling with a new client with right now because this parent really wants their child to get into kindergarten at a particular school. We've got a long
Mm,
way to get there. So the parent was working on more compliance-based strategies, increasing attention span, which is, all things that they need to be in certain school environments. And so
mhm.
I'm trying to coach the parent on just accepting their child for who they are right now. Maybe that
Yeah.
school might not be the best fit, and let's think about some plan B. Thankfully, we have a lot of time between now and August,
Yeah.
but it's so hard, I think, to help adults, parents, like
Yeah.
traditional, more rigid therapists think about it doesn't have to always be this way. That
Yeah.
might not be the best fit for
Yeah.
that child, and they can thrive in a setting that might be more
Hmm.
accommodating for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. Like when I hear that example, the first thing I think about is, okay, where's the parent at with this diagnosis?
Yeah, there's
And
no
then,
diagnosis yet.
oh,
There's been
okay.
suggestions, but the acceptance of the diagnosis is
Yes.
something.
Maybe, yeah. So, okay, so it's where's the parent at? And
Yeah.
which kind of influence the need of wanting to be in kinder, right? So he's not in the program right now, special. Okay. It's
No.
just his going to be his first day at school in kinder. Oh, it's hard. I mean, sometimes they're kind of have to let them experience it sometimes, especially if they're very resistant, and
Yeah.
then always to check back.
Yep.
But I think you're doing great.
Oh, thank you. This is not my first rodeo, so I
I
mean, I think
know.
there's so many parents, and I can tell you personally, I went through that with my daughter. She is not neurodivergent that I know of. She could possibly, have ADHD, but she's so young, so it's hard to tell at this point.
I know.
But just thinking a particular school setting was going to be the best fit. And then she got into a different school setting and coming to terms with that. And maybe that is a better fit, even though the one I wanted was this one. So I feel like I can relate to what this parent, if you have this vision of what you want for your child. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of like, it's like you're almost doing therapy with the parent as well. They need to go to a therapist too, but there's a little,
Yeah.
our expectations are here, and we can just take it day by day. And we don't have to get so really going down a rabbit hole of what the future holds. You just don't know what the future holds.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But I love these examples because I think it's really going to help other therapists kind of suss out therapists that are not willing to change and be more
Mhm.
neurodiversity affirming. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I think this kind of goes along with what we were talking about. How can parents advocate for ABA that aligns with their child's needs, or any therapy that aligns with their child's needs?
Yeah. So as a parent, as an advocate, I think to really set your mindset that the therapist or the teacher really wants to help your child, even though it might look different. And in most cases, it probably does. But I think just to really have that in your head that we all want the same things, and it's to help the student or the child. So I think collaboration is very important. It's like seeing you all as a team together instead of going against each other, and actively review and question the goals. I think a lot of parents see like the IEPs, they're like, a lot of pages and all this stuff, or the reports. It's really, really, really go through each goal and really take your time to understand why each goal is set. What does it mean? And really look at whether the goals truly reflect your child's strengths, challenges, and interests. And does it bring value to the child? And does it bring value to you as a family? And question that if there's a goal that doesn't fit, really ask questions. Why? Can you tell me more about this goal? What does it mean? And truly listen instead of like, I don't think this goal fits. This doesn't, kind of just like attack, 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 which, sometimes that's what parents do. But I think just asking for the rationale. Can you tell me more about this? And how does this affect my child's overall development? And maybe it could be an answer that you actually like. And maybe we can make adjustments to it, tweak it a little bit where it's your input is also part of it. I think also just, yeah, ask a lot of questions, ask examples, just to make sure you guys are all on the same page. And also just to be honest with what you're feeling. If there's some concerns that you're having and it doesn't sit well with you, communicate that with the team. It's big. And from my experience, I feel the IEP team, I'm using just IEP as an example because I had an experience with the IEP team. I just feel to they really want to make the parent happy, because if the parent's not happy, then the goal is useless. That's how I see it. There's no implementation at home. Things are going to be done differently. So I think that's the very first one thing that I notice about my team. It's okay. I'm really glad that that they really consider what I'm saying. And I do give examples as well. This is why I feel this way. This is what I'm seeing at home. Really communicate that things that you're seeing at home, because what your child is doing at school, they see something different. And also like this also, I just feel this also creates a trust and understanding between you as a parent and then them as a team. And have a script ready. What I mean by this is, come to the meeting with questions, prepared questions. And also, because this is what I struggle with, if I get a lot of information, kind of like information fatigue, and then, or I'm unsure about a goal, you don't have to agree with it right away. You also don't have to say no. Just, I have a script, okay, I'll get back to you on that. Okay, let me sit on that. And it's just so simple, because before I used to be like, well, I don't know, I'm trying to make a decision right on the spot, but then just have a script ready. Just say like, okay, let me look into that. I'll get back to you tomorrow. I'm going to share this with a colleague, with my child's SOP at the clinic, see what they say. And then if anything, we'll set up a meeting. So just having, this is a proactive strategy. So just being prepared with that. Familiarize yourself with basic understanding of ABA. So just learning, getting familiar with the four functions. I mean, it's not the greatest, but it's something. The four functions, what is reinforcement, what is punishment, what are replacement behaviors, just having a like general understanding of that and kind of talking about it with the team, and maybe just asking how can this be neuroaffirming using these type of strategies. And then, so this gives a way for them to explain to you as well. And I think they all just kind of go hand in hand. So voice your concerns. As always, just speak up for yourself, even though for me, I had to learn to do that during this journey because I'm very introverted, but I also have but at heart, I want a lot of changes. So voice your concerns. Either there's many ways you can do that. It could be written, it can be email, whatever you feel more most comfortable. But if you are concerned or it doesn't sit well, just make sure you get it out there. Yeah, ask for adjustments, ask for modifications on the plan, if anything, and focus on the child and what is most important. So I know the heart of every ABA professional or every teacher should be your child's well-being. It's just easy to get so caught up with data points because unfortunately that's just the reality of it. It is what it is. But then you have to remember that your child is much more than that. So it's, yes, even though we have these goals that it needs to be measurable, what are some ways that the therapist or the teacher is doing to create this connection with your child as well? So, yeah.
I love those. One thing would to add too is giving positive reinforcement to your team if they feel like you're
Yes,
doing a good job. It goes a long way. Some of the families that I've been with for
you're
you,
right.
they're so good about that. And so when they approach me with something that we need to change or a concern that they're having, I feel like she always softens the blow with like, this was amazing. And
Yes.
sometimes it's not positive
Yeah.
reinforcement, but it's related to like they'll share something their child did recently. And we're all on the same team. So obviously I'm very excited for that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It really helps. The team they're humans too,
Right.
And I think a little bit like some praise and some positive reinforcement, really behavior specific praise will really help the team. Okay, like this is not just a mother who just wants this, and that. This is a
Mhm.
mother who also appreciates the team.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. So
Thanks for adding that.
this is going to be a little bit of a tougher question, but when you're doing assessments, are you using the traditional ABA assessments? Are you developing goals from that? Or are you just like creating your own
Mhm.
goals based on the client's needs? Because I see a lot of BCBAs create goals straight up from the
I
VB map or
know.
something.
Oh, I know. So this is why I wanted to go private because I don't want to rely on these
I
assessments.
hear you. Yeah.
But insurance companies, they want to see it.
Yeah.
They want to see it with the VB map. So it's used as a guide. I that's the way our company use it, is used as a guide just to show, oh, these are the areas that this client is struggling in. Whether we create goals off of that or not, it's up to the parents. Is this goal important to you? What does this mean for the client? What skill does this teach the client? Because again, when we're tracking data and all that, sometimes and then we have to think about the way we write the goals, that it's not so, I mean, it's data driven, but then I'm still working on that as well. How do I create goals that the insurance will accept, but also we also have to respect the child's learning style? So going back to your question about the assessment, it's used as a guide, and put it on the report because that's what the insurance like to see. They're going to see, oh, this is the areas of deficit. And then sometimes, and many times we have to code switch the way we write on the report. You have to code switch, should not be the way you talk to the parents about your child.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Great point. Yeah.
that's the hard
It's
part.
definitely hard when insurance is involved which is most of the case, most cases, because you're showing that medical necessity and then your goals probably
Mm-hmm.
have to reflect that as well. But if you're doing private, then you can write more like strengths-based goals.
Yeah.
I know it's
Yes.
hard.
It's rough. I'm still trying to navigate that as well. But I think so far with my experience with the company, it's it's great. They really focus on the strengths base, and there's some goals that parents do find valuable, like attending to 3 tasks for up to, if they suggest something, well, they should be sitting for 10 minutes. It's no, 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 no. What if we do, what if we do, okay, the child where will attend to an activity that's interest-led activity. And if he needs to go, he just needs to request, I need a break. I'm done. I can't do this right now. And it's okay, sure, let's get back to it. So instead of the duration of that, it's let's not. I know this will prepare him for school, but I think what's most important is the advocacy part. And then sometimes the parents are, but then we tend to get buy-in anyways from the parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're making a good point. When you're writing those goals, some of those skills can be the same, but then
Mm-hmm.
making sure we're putting child-led, motivating,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that the way that we're tracking it, whether it's percentage or frequency, is reasonable and they're not going to be doing this goal for the rest of their life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the goals that used to say non-preferred, I remember that. I
I
mean, I wrote
know.
so many bad goals back in the day too, before I knew better.
Yeah. Insurance to see that too, non-preferred. I was like,
Right. I know because it's a systematic issue, right? People that are
yeah.
reviewing it may have not like
Mm-hmm.
changed yet. So it's
Yeah. Yeah.
okay. So what are some simple ways that parents can use ABA at home while focusing on connection with their child?
Okay. So we talked about this earlier with the routines. Routines are important. It brings some structure. It makes me more sane to go through the day. It helps me, and I know it helps my child too. So you want to develop a routine, but then also keep in mind that it shouldn't be so rigid as well, like a flexible routine, something to go off by, but it should also be somewhat consistent. What I mean by consistent is like, okay, what's very valuable to me? It's if we're playing an activity together, a consistent thing I want to teach my kids is, okay, let's put the things away before we go on to the next thing. Because if my house is clutter and too many things, I have a very difficult time just, I don't know, making lunch. Okay. Just something as simple as that. So that's what I mean by consistent routine. Is it compliance based? I think we do need some compliance in our lives, but it's not in a way it's like, okay, now put this away. No, 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 you go get it. Let's go put it. But it's doing this thing together. I'm not just having my kids clean up, just them, all of it. I'm doing it with them, to
Yes,
showing them and all that. Yeah.
that's a huge point to be made here because certain things that should be done. You shouldn't, as a parent, be
Mhm.
responsible for letting the child just wreak havoc on the house and you have
Yeah.
to clean up everything, but you don't have to
Yeah.
leave them to do it themselves. I've noticed that even with my own child and kids that I work with, like it can be really overwhelming to see a huge mess. So I'll have
Mhm.
maybe my daughter start, and then as I can see she's getting anxious about it or,
Mhm.
overwhelmed by the big mess, I'll step in
Yeah.
and help her as well. The goal is not to get her to clean. The goal is just to show her this is what is typically done. After you do
Mhm.
something, not make a mess, but after you do
Yeah.
something fun, you put it away so that the next time you go to play with it, it's where you found it or
Yes.
where you know you can find it.
Yes. Yes. And I noticed you probably see this with your daughter too, but then when my kids, because we have a ton of train tracks, a ton of train tracks, and then there's a specific one that my oldest son looks for. And then it's like, and he's looking and, just looking everywhere when, when my house does get to that point where it falls apart and it's messy. And it caused stress for
Right.
him. Yeah.
The
So
lack
for
the
us,
lack of routine caused more stress for my daughter and our family than the
mhm,
routine does now. I'm
yeah.
and there was no, if you don't do this routine, you're getting in trouble. It was just like,
Yeah.
do the routine together. You have to get dressed in the
Hmm.
morning. You have to brush your teeth. You have to go to the
Hmm.
bathroom. But she was never punished for not doing it. It was just, look, here's our schedule. Let's go refer to it so we remember what we have to do so that we can get out of the house in a reasonable time. I think
Yeah.
there's a difference there. That's the tool. It's like how you use
Yes.
the tools.
Yes. And let's talk about the consequence of the behavior when we don't clean up. It's like, oh, I can't find my stuff and I'm stressed out and I'm trying to regulate. My son, he just paces around in circles when he can't find it. He starts, stimming. So it's no need to, oh, see, you're in trouble now. You didn't clean up, that you don't get a prize for not cleaning up. Naturally, you should be intrinsically motivated to do that because it brings more peace in my life, at least for our family. And now I know there's some families that don't mind, but in our family, like our family values, this is what's important to us. At the same time, you're also being very, you're doing it together too. So you're teaching them these skills. So in the routine, try to incorporate like interest led to lead to encourage motivation and engagement, and also incorporating some of your things too. For example, my kids, they don't drink celery juice, but I do. So I have them be a part of putting the celery inside the juicer, and they just love it. And that just teaches them just simple, even following the directions. Okay, wait, let's wait your turn. Okay, now it's Caden's turn. Okay, now it's your turn, Cody. Taking turns to do that. And for some reason, it works so great. For them being younger boys, but then they're learning to kind of control their impulse a little bit. But then I'm also being very aware, okay, well, they're just little kids. They're doing their best. So teaching them things like, okay, it's time to clean up. Okay, let's put the carrots in there. Okay, now let's put the ginger. Now my son knows all of them. Cucumbers, ginger, lemon, he knows all of them. Okay, now let's help me clean it up. And, okay, let's take it out. And that also helps with the transition portion. Okay, well, okay, now after this, let's go play outside. And then we're, you know, playing out there, or maybe this is a time where you're kind of doing your own thing. But then now the transitioning, and this is another thing that most families struggle with, is my kids are having a difficult time ending their preferred task going back inside from outside. How do you do that? So the routine. So let's say after juicing, they go outside. After they go outside, they get to come in and watch TV, which is kind of okay. That's a reinforcement for them. That makes transition easier. But then that's how you kind of use it in an effective way. It's if it's working that way, then it's harmless. But it's also letting them know, okay, well, it looks like you're having a great time outside, but hey, in about 5 minutes, we have to go back inside. I'll have your favorite show on. Or, oh, let's go back inside. We're going to have a lunch. So the trick for transitioning is making sure they have something to look forward to. So kind of like what we do too, right? We don't have, if we're stuck in an area where it's like, oh God, I really don't feel like going to Home Depot after this. But then it's, oh, okay, so after this, we get to go eat at my favorite restaurant. Let's go. So it's like that connection piece, that transition piece, just a little bit of tweak of that can really focus on the connection between you and your kids.
Could you say in the same sense that like Sometimes transitions are just hard and there's not always something to look forward to. Even
Yeah.
we don't like stopping something that we really enjoy, and
Yeah.
sometimes helping the child co-regulate through that feeling that
Yes.
they're having. So I
Yeah.
think like doing as much prep that you can, that this
Mhm.
activity is going to be ending, letting them know what to expect. So it's not like, okay, it's stopping in a minute.
Yes.
And then being consistent. If you said it was going to
Mhm.
be done in 5 minutes and you kind of both agreed on it, then in 5 minutes is up, then you're done. Because if you don't stop, then they're going to think, okay, maybe they weren't serious about me stopping in 5 minutes. And then
Yeah.
just helping them co regulate through that if there's not something that they can look forward to after that. Do you think that that could also be helpful?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The co-regulation piece, because I know this is very picture perfect,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
meant in
sometimes
a lot of
emotions are
cases,
not
it's not.
cute.
Yeah. And it's not. And then in those times, it's the co-regulation piece.
Mhm.
And I think it's also important to have those boundaries as well. And that's up to you as your
What you
what's
need,
important
right?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
what you value, what's important to you. It's like, I know it's so fun to be out here. We've been out here for 45 minutes. I know it's so hard. It's so hard. Just take your time. I'll be in here whenever you're ready. I'll even start prepping. Just let them know what you're gonna do. I'll have the TV on whenever you're ready, okay? I'll be over here. If you need some help, I'll be here for you. So it's yeah, you know how it is.
Yeah, versus like, okay, you're having a tantrum right now. I'm gonna plan to ignore it so that
Yes.
yeah, no,
Y-
there's a difference, right? I like the way
Yeah.
you described that, supporting that behavior at that time. I
Mhm.
want to give another example with like family values and respecting them. So I
Mhm.
started working with a family recently and we talked about the use of please and thank you and how it's not prioritized in speech therapy. But she was like, listen, Vanita, this is a non-negotiable. In my culture, children need to say please and thank you. And I think if they don't say it by a certain age, then they will never require it and they'll always be prompt dependent. And I was like, okay, do I really want to devalue her culture and what they
Yeah.
value? Is it that important to me that we don't work on please and thank you? Or is it a middle ground that we can find? So I almost wish I renamed this pod course value based because I think you're making such a good point that this is a dynamic. Like therapy is not just with the client, it's also with the family too, and also your regulation too. So
Mhm.
this trifecta between everyone that's involved. I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. And it just made me think about maybe at home while you're doing the transition, there's a lot of flexibility, as you can say. Maybe you guys can negotiate or be like, oh, but mom, I want to stay out here a little longer. Okay, fine. Yeah, you can stay out here for another 3 minutes. But what if you're out in public and then your child is tantruming and but for me, I feel like if that's happening in public, I also coaching them through that too. It's like, I know you're upset, but we're at a public place right now. I'm gonna pick you up. I'm gonna pick you up right now, and then we're going to um, either leave or we can go back to where we were sitting. So it's one of those things where we kind of have to. It's really depending
Situational.
where you're at. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's such
yeah,
a good point because the way I parent in public is very different than the way I parent at home. My dysregulation is like, or my tolerance is so low in public versus at home. I will wait it out with you at home, but in public,
yes.
I'm especially depending on where we are in public. Yeah. And that's probably something like I need to work on or just not put ourselves in that situation. But I think that's
I
a good,
understand.
but I feel like that's a good social awareness scenario as well because that's just social boundaries. Like you can't do these type of things in those type of settings, and as you get older you'll understand why there's like safe places to have their big
Mm-hmm.
emotions or I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
also think it's a
Yeah.
lot harder kids with their parents. They feel a lot safer and they trust you to do certain things or have certain feelings. And
Mhm.
so it does
Yeah.
put you in a tough position when you're out in public because you're like, at home, I'll tolerate this and I'll work with you on this. But when we're in public, it looks,
Yeah.
it's harder to deal
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, I think it's also important to, and I'm still working with this on my kids too. It's like it's just telling them, okay, this is okay now, but I want to let you know when we're out, I'm gonna have to do this when you do this because we have to consider all the other people that are there. Just talking through it,
Mm.
I just feel like it would just make a massive difference for our kids, which I'm learning, I'm still learning
Yeah.
to do right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so intentional actions, like non-contingent reinforcement. So basically what that means is just smile at your kids just cuz, they don't need to do something good or they don't need to, earn it. Just smile at them, hug them, a quick nod. So in my routine, I also have time for myself where I have to do like 30 minutes of work, you know, a 30 minutes of work or a 10-minute workout or something. Only 10 minutes, that's all I can do right now. But then I also have to be mindful, okay, my kids are around and maybe I can give them something to have them kind of occupied at that moment. But then I can also just, as I'm working, I can also just say, I really love you, or something like that. Just like a quick acknowledgement. Um, and my kids love that. So providing okay, so providing choices. I get a lot of so providing choices. This is one thing that I have a lot of questions about. It's like my kids, they have a very difficult time if they can't get what they want. They can't get what they want.
That's
And
all
what
kids,
they
right? Yeah.
yes, and what the families usually do is no, you can't have it, and that's it. And
Hmm.
and ABA or the really great thing too. Yes, you can tell them they can have it, but then what can they have? They want something. So providing a choices while letting them know, okay, I know you really want this, but we can't have it right now. And this is why. But here are two things that you can have, which really gives for them to choose one of those, it really helps them with their autonomy and stuff. So, for example, if your child wants ice cream, let's say right before dinner or something, and then you said, no, you can't have ice cream. I know how much you want it. It's really hot outside, but we're going to have dinner right now. But what you can have is, yogurt. Would you like to have some yogurt or would you like to have apples and peanut butter or whatever is you feel your child wants? And it has to be something that they like, obviously. It can't be something that you think is good for them because it won't work. It just won't work. So at the same time, you're just like considering their preference as well. Like,
Mhm.
oh no, you can't have Ruffles right now, but you can have some freeze-dried bananas or some Cheez-Its
Mhm. I
or
think it's
kinetics.
also, not to interrupt, but I feel it's
Yeah.
also going back to why. Constantly questioning that self-reflection of why
Mhm.
you're putting that boundary. Like I
Mhm.
remember my daughter would ask for something that you would typically eat for lunch or dinner, but for like breakfast. And for a while I was like, no, no. And then I was, why? Culturally, we eat that at lunch or dinner, but she could
Mhm.
totally eat this in the morning. So I think that
Yeah.
that's also important to keep in mind is when you're setting those boundaries,
Yes.
asking yourself why, and is it really important? Or is it something
Mhm.
that I can give a little?
Yes. Yeah. And I know a lot of the food and stuff, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But just
We
to
have to be
touch,
careful.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just to touch on it. I have my son, he has not much on his what he prefers to eat.
Mhm.
Not much. And they're all the same colors. They're all beige.
Mhm.
No colors or anything like that. So I know listening to the voices of autistic people, it's like let him have his safe food, his, all this. But then I'm also considering nutrition in it. And yes, he can have his safe foods. I was like, but for me, I really value my kids being healthy, getting enough nutrition. And and supplements, he doesn't take them. It's very, very difficult. But anyways, that's a whole nother thing.
Mhm.
Um, and another example is kinetic sand. I'm just using my examples because usually for some reason they want to play with kinetic sand or the marble run with the little marbles when I'm cooking dinner. And for me, those two toys, I have to be there with them. That's just because of the mess that it brings in the house. And the marbles are really, really tiny that I need to make sure that it's being played the way it's supposed to and it's not in anybody's mouths. So so yeah, that it's like, okay, no, you can't play that right now because, it gets messy. Mommy's busy. I have to do this when I'm with you. But what you can do is play Play-Doh or putty. So yeah, and then also like the marble one, building train tracks or the Bluey figurines. And typically my kids, they like do very well This is just my experience, do very well with looking for choosing an alternative choice. But
Yeah. And I think also presenting those choices as visuals, whether it's holding them up or like
mm-hmm.
have them in an image is helpful too. That way
Yeah.
the processing piece of the words that you're telling them could be a little more difficult.
Yes, 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 yes. We have a closet full of toys in bins.
Oh, nice.
I know it's the most this is probably one of the most proud I'm buying those bins was
Yeah.
like I did it.
Yay.
So yeah,
I know that feeling.
so then I open it, I was like, okay, which one?
But also admire how beautiful this is.
Yes, yes.
I love that. All right, so you have some really great resources and references here. Can you talk about them a little bit?
Oh yes. So for Instagram, these are just the accounts that I learned a lot from. Some of them are lived experiences, and they're also a pretty well diverse group of people. So, and some of them are ABA providers as well, BCBA, some speech people. And we just share the same outlook on things. And I just learned a lot from them. And Unfurling Littles, I don't know if you've heard of Unfurling Littles, pretty well known. She's right here. So she's a BCBA, autistic owned BCBA, and I think she's based in Philly. Her resources are great. They're free. So you just go ahead and check out this website where she provides handouts on neurodiversity affirming and posters, just visuals, great visuals, and she has her own clinic. I just feel like if you haven't followed her yet, you'll just fall in love with her page. First of all, it's very earthy, and you get to see how she practices. And I know, like you said, you feel like you should change this podcast into something in relation to values. So what in ABA, there's also this thing called acceptance and commitment therapy ACT. And that's what Maggie is heavily, and that's the way she practice. And it's values based ABA. And for me, I only know the great general, but I feel like it's a really great, she's fully trained on that, her and also across environments. And for the other websites like Live in Balance, this is by Dr. Ross Green, the collaboration proactive solutions. I just kind of grab some of the things that he has taught me about like learning to collaborate, learning to listen, to sit in, a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of behavior change that we need to do within ourselves to positively influence our kids. The Autistic Advocacy Organization, that one is a great resource to go by if you also want to learn more about from an autistic person point of view, and also the Facebook Autism Inclusivity, which was the first Facebook group I joined when I learned about neurodiversity affirming practices and the harmful effects of ABA. And also these two articles, Affirming Diversity Within Applied Behavior Analysis. I actually have these two. Maybe I don't know if you want me to just email you the articles.
Yeah, that would
I'll
be
do
awesome.
that.
Thank you. Are they open
Yeah.
access?
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I
good.
actually
How new
have the
they are.
PDF. I have the PDF.
Oh,
So
okay,
I can
good.
just send it to you.
Okay.
It's just,
I was just gonna say, look how new they are. It's so interesting.
yeah.
And this is probably pretty much all you were able to find in this area on ABA, but I'm so glad they're moving
Yeah.
towards that direction. I'm gonna
Yeah.
use these. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And this is, yes, a great article on adding compassion into part of our dimensions of ABA. So it has a really great chart in there. So I think you'll like it too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you want to earn ASHA CEUs for this pod course, you can go to tasseltogether.com. You can follow us at Tassel Together on Instagram. And if you have questions about earning CEUs or anything Jenny said, you can go to info@tasseltogether.com. And Jenny, where can everybody find and connect with you?
Oh, you can find me on my Instagram at Miss Jenny BX. So MSJENNYBX. And yeah, that's my Instagram. Or yeah, just shoot me a DM. I love receiving messages. So yeah, so if you have any questions about this or you just want to chat, just direct message me.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jenny. And I love our
Thank
little
you.
guest here that we've had today too.
I know.
Wasn't that amazing? This episode is part of a two-part Podcourse series. As a reminder, listening to this episode does not automatically guarantee ASHA CEUs. If you want to earn point 1 ASHA CEUs, then make sure you listen to part 1 and 2, then click on the link in the show notes or go to tasseltogether.com to register for this featured course or an SLP Connect membership. Pass a brief quiz and achieve an 80% or higher score. Finish the program evaluation and pass the quiz by the end date indicated on the course details page. Make sure you provided your ASHA information when you registered, and then Tassel will automatically report your course participation to ASHA. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this Podcourse sponsored by Tassel.